Hi ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Genshin Impact. Today we're going to be doing this as a community as we do and talking about BAAL. We're going to be trying to talk about her best team comps and essentially where we should kind of build her and what her kind of maybe possibly pitfalls are going to be. Also, when we're talking about her abilities, hopefully I edit what they look like at least a little bit on screen. So basically, BAAL, from all accounts, is a support DPS in a very weird way, similar to Shincho or Baido, in the sense of her E. So basically, BAAL, you activate her E, or at least that's what it looks like, maybe possibly. Also, before we get even deeper into this, we're gonna be talking about speculation. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If you don't want any speculation that oftentimes has been really correct in the past, don't watch. Please walk away and just experience it on your own if that's what you desire. From, of course, Genshin. Also, forgive me if I look a little sweaty. We've been streaming for quite a long time. Sorry. Anywho, BAAL's E essentially acts as an amplification of your damage. Unlike other characters, though, like Shincho, it's on a 2-second timer for Shincho's alt Water Blades. But for BAAL, it's on a really, really low timer. I believe it's on a 0.93 second timer for her E, so it's going to be hitting like every second, like boom, 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 boom. If you have a character that attacks fast, that's going to be best, and we're going to talk about that when it comes to her team synergy in a little bit. But also BAAL has this kind of roaming burst ultimate, kind of making her a burst DPS as well as a seemingly very good burst support. And everything seemingly synergizes within the way she plays, making her kind of a support character where you're going to switch to her, use her E, get a good bit of damage, and now whoever your main DPS is going to be just benefiting from her E, but also passively by using her E, you're going to maybe possibly be gaining stacks. And those stacks can make your alt bite just a little bit harder. Also, maybe possibly there's something to having fully charged BAAL for a long period of time, because maybe it has this weird amplification of the damage even more so. So the longer you hold on to BAAL's alt, the more damage it's going to deal. Now, by the way, just in case you guys didn't see it on screen a couple seconds ago, BAAL's alt is her wielding her badass Buba Katana and just wrecking shit like mad. Maybe, possibly. It's very flashy at the very least. Whether it has enough bite with our constellations, we'll hope and hopefully see. But alas, let's get into her team composition and then later into her best artifact set and then maybe even weapons, depending on if we are prepared enough to do so. But let's get into it. One big negative to BAAL, just because I have you before hopefully she comes out. BAAL is going to be in a weird place for a lot of people because we can't actually get any of her ascension materials, so it's going to be a slow build to BAAL. Although I'm assuming there's other channels and YouTubers and Twitch people who are going to be able to level her up day one with resin refills, but just be wary that it's going to take a little bit of time to see how much bite she actually does have, because we can't farm for bosses and all that stuff. So that's gonna do it. Teams, all that. So, unlike other support DPSs like Shincho, who's absolutely fantastic, and also his constellations are pretty like you're able to get them because he's a 4-star, and characters like Baido, which with the new artifact set are actually really easy to back-to-back her alt and stuff like that, because it has to do with energy recharge. Basically, all of these support DPSs, similar to Shincho and Baido, and now the main Traveler, at least the Electro variants, all basically scale off of this 2-second timer, which I think actually does have a place within Genshin. For those of you guys who do not know, Elemental Mastery has, give or take, a 2-second timer on the detonation loop of it. So I think that's what it's made for there. But recently, we've had a character named Yoimiya recently getting introduced in the game that attacks very, very quickly, although with seemingly less and less bite, but that's kind of an argument or a debate at this point. Regardless, this is what maybe possibly BAAL is going to hyper accelerate. Like we mentioned, her E is not on a 2-second timer. Things are subject to change. We don't know. I heard this from my guy who works at Xbox, who works for Sony, and nonsense. But yeah, just take that with a grain of salt. But yes, this is what people are going to be speculating why BAAL and Yoimiya maybe possibly synergize. But this does not just mean Yoimiya. There's other characters like Venti, if you have them, that you can just use the E and have a lot of extra bonus attack. Also, Venti has his ability to CC enemies, and at least from some things that I've maybe possibly seen, Venti also triggers BAAL's E's additive attack. Which is essentially always on cooldown because Venti hits so fast, so quickly, because he basically is a tornado that's constantly proccing that detonation. So yeah, so characters like Venti who are gonna basically limit the amount, or like basically have so much attack procs to where there's no downtime are going to be incredibly valuable. So if you don't have a Yoimiya, you probably still have a Venti, you probably still have like a Yanfei, or like Tartaglia is a great example, especially with the BAAL also seems to synergize with a classic burst DPS similar to a Yoimiya, or what is it, Child, what's the other one? Xiao, sure, I guess not really. Xiao doesn't really work. But anyways, any character where you have to basically leave the Hu Tao, I think he's going to be great for. Any character where you have to leave the field, that's when you're going to come back to of course, BAAL, and then just activate your alt and then just shred things for a very short amount of time. And also, well, we'll talk about it later when we get into BAAL's kit. But yes, in terms of a team, shit, man, she's a support DPS like Shin Cho, so she can kind of be put anywhere, but her alt does like lean her towards any character that doesn't need to be played constantly. So if you have a main DPS that's already trucking things, giving her E to that character will always just make them a little bit better, albeit it doesn't scale as hard as like, you know, Xiao's or Shin or Baido's alt, or but it's still going to be good. But I still think with her alt being her alt, you're going to need certain other things, and this is what kind of starts pigeonholing BAAL into a corner. But essentially BAAL maybe possibly works around stacks. Let's just say stacks. Is it kind of revolves, like I said, around her E, and possibly with using other characters' alts. So this basically makes it so the more you use other characters whilst using, well, they basically have BAAL's E equipped to them, they're going to be gaining particles and also gaining stacks. It's kind of weird. If a person starts gaining, your main DPS starts gaining particles, that may possibly gain you stacks as well. So you kind of have maybe possibly two things leveraging BAAL's burst ultimate to deal more and more damage, which is both exciting and a little worrisome if you're not able to get all those ducks in a row. Will her damage have enough bite? I don't know. I'd hope, but who knows. Regardless, that's something you can build for. Essentially, any character that can keep 100% uptime on BAAL's E, and if there's any sort of particle generation by using BAAL's E, could be huge. That could be consistent energy constantly for you, but if you don't detonate her E, you may not get any particles, although I don't know if you do get particles from it. BAAL's kind of an enigma, and her kit is, like I said, needlessly complicated. Anyways, as of perfect builds, or I think characters that synergize with BAAL, again, any sort of fast DPS character that can constantly keep the less time for her E to basically be activated and proccing her electrical sparks is the best character. So Yoimiya, any character that attacks fast, I'm not even going to go through it, but any character that attacks fast is going to be nice. Any character that has kind of other support abilities that can kind of massively amplify things in this way will also be good. I don't think Sucrose will be that great because Sucrose does not have as much attack, fire rate, I guess, within her alt that Venti does. And yeah, so you're going to want Official would be great as well. Official is going to constantly allow you to detonate the attack, although she is like double Electro. I don't know if it's going to be too insane. Well, no, this is on a lot of these characters are on a weird pulse timer. Ganyu is going to be nuts. Although Superconduct is not going to be what she needs necessarily. Although, I will say one of the things that synergizes beautifully, commented by one of the people in our community who's also going for BAAL, is how much BAAL synergizes with Eula, at least her E. Potentially, maybe BAAL is going to help you regenerate more of, or get to your alt faster. She's gonna give you energy recharge, maybe. So the fact that BAAL is also going to be a character that has a stupid long E and a stupid long Electro application, she's perfect for Eula. Superconduct is going to be the easiest thing you've ever seen on Eula, and also Eula, regardless of how you build her, basically her alt is on a massive cooldown, so you're going to have a lot of downtime just because you're waiting to get back to her alt. So you can cycle in this much more efficient way. So I think that's something to mention. If you have a Eula, BAAL could be huge in terms of team synergy there. If you have a Venti, I think it's going to be great as well, because he's just able to constantly keep 100% uptime on her E's detonation of her spark. And as of her alt, I don't know, dude. Her alt is in this weird place where, like, she's an Archon, but it also has to do with stacks. So is it going to be good on a passive, or are you going to really have to work for her alt to be good? I don't know. That's where things start getting a little messy, and that's where I depend on you, my people. Chat, please help me. I'm doing my best. Okay. The boss is brutal. Do you need help still, Sparks? I'll help you when we're done with this video. Bento says, wish I had Eula. Yeah, man, Eula will be fun. We'll see. Because again, I think she really synergizes with BAAL. But again, she's a support DPS, so theoretically BAAL could synergize with everybody. Although not really. One thing I should have mentioned is that BAAL is an Electro character, and you're going to be doing Electro spark damage. So this can kind of be bad because it's going to dominate the the layering effect of elemental mastery, which is even more complicated. But anyways, point being is that you could over apply your element. Yoimiya knows this perfectly, that she over applies fire. And yeah, you don't want the thing that it detonates to be the thing that hits. So yeah, just be warned. If BAAL does come out and she's not that great, that might be the reason why, is because her E can apply too much of an element. And if it's, the good news is that Electro is a support element, so it's not exactly bad that she's over applying a support element. But yeah, if it was water, then that could be a little bit more nice. That's why Shincho is just so good. But just be warned with that. She might over apply her element, so just that may make her a little bit less good, but we'll see. We'll see how the time. I think that's the reason why BAAL has not a minute or a second timer. She has like a 93 or 0.93 or whatever it was to her cooldowns, which I think is why, so that maybe it perfectly squeezes in to certain cooldowns within elemental mastery and detonation, stuff like that. But we'll see. Yeah, that's true. Okay, yeah. So yeah, what do you call it? Lone Syndicate's talking about how Bido could play a huge role in this as well, because as much as, I don't know, I just feel like doubling up on Electro may not be the play, although Bido is great. I just think maybe Xingqiu would be pretty good to introduce into her thing, so that you can have some Chain Lightning, albeit Chain Lightning is not the most good in Genshin, at least right now. Maybe they'll buff it, but who knows. And yeah, and I don't think any character that gives you ice is going to be too good either, because Super Conduct is only good for you to do physical DPS stuff, which again is why it works with Eula, because she benefits from that. She's barely even an ice character. As far as shielding characters, I don't know, because I don't think BAAL will need any shielding, because if you see the gameplay of her ult, she's like teleporting around, she's blinking, she's hitting like stupid fast, and she seems, also you have massive interruption resistance, I believe, when you use her ult. So I don't think that'll be what she struggles with. I think she's almost made to be a really efficient burst character. I just don't know if you need a shield. I think you do need a shield if you're playing Yoimiya, but if you're using like Hu Tao and all that stuff, I don't know if you need a shield character, although Hu Tao does benefit from being low health, so that could be synergy on other synergy, I guess. But yeah. I do think Hu Tao is probably the best in slot. If I were to pick like the dream team that I think is going to be absolutely nuts, I think Hu Tao or Yanfei. If you're free to play, probably Yanfei. If you have Hu Tao, I think Hu Tao would be one of the best main attackers. The reason why is because her base attack attacks very, very quickly. She's kind of like Yoimiya, except she doesn't have unlimited range, although she does have a charge attack that just fucking chews through people. And I do think she'll be able to keep BAAL on her toes in terms of her E being on 100% uptime. I also think Child will be able to easily do that. Also, Overload is really good right now. Yeah, and I think there's Spear. Yeah, there's a critical attack. There's Staff of Homo, which is one of the best weapons in the game. So yeah, I think she'll be ideal for like the main tip of the spear, the damage, DPS, and all that stuff. Second character I think would be Venti, but that's just because Venti kind of goes everywhere and kind of just pops off in a huge way anyway. But I think specifically with BAAL, where again any character that can kind of mass keep uptime is going to be really nice. But I will say if you use Venti, this puts Yanfei and Yoimiya in better light, because you can get range with them and hit them from the sky, which is nice. What would be the other character I would use? Even if I didn't use Venti, if I didn't have Venti, I would just use Zhongli, just to be honest, because Zhongli just debuffs enemies to elemental resistance, or elemental damage, so you can hit it harder with your E. Also, his ult is amazing, petrifies CCs, just insane in that regard, and also, yeah, it will just allow you to hit for days. Also, if you have him with his best set, it buffs your attack damage, it buffs everyone on your team's attack damage, which would allow your Hu Tao to hit harder, would allow BAAL to hit harder, would, when you cycle to BAAL, allow BAAL to hit even harder when you use her ult. I don't think Sucrose necessarily works with this, because just a lot of Electro elemental mastery buffing and stuff like that doesn't benefit in this way. It, like, at least not right now. Like, as much as Overload is good, it doesn't seem like it's worth that much, at least right now. But who knows? Maybe I think if you have Diona, that would make a little bit more sense, because you at least have healing and shielding and 200 easy burst ult. That seems a little bit more better off. But I still don't think I would choose Sucrose in any of that regard. I honestly think if I could, I think you would just double down on what already works. So I think you would go with Bennett. Bennett would be fantastic. You would just buff up your base attack. And also you would use Shincho or Bido just to give you even more damage. I think I would choose Shincho over Bido, just because, not that Bido's not good, it's just that you're already dealing, I would want to like I don't know. I guess there are benefits to going double Electro. You get like, I think, lower cooldown on your E. But I don't know any character that needs that, at least in the character roster we've talked about. Maybe Hu Tao. Maybe, yeah, Hu Tao wouldn't be bad, I guess, doing double of that. But yeah, and also with Hu Tao, you don't need, like, well, I guess you could use a shield character. But yeah, my ideal team: Hu Tao, Venti, and Bennett, and what's her name? And BAAL, or BAAL, sorry, BAAL. And if I were to change things up a little bit, I would, if I couldn't use Venti, I would use Zhongli, or I would change Zhongli out for Xingqiu, because Xingqiu basically gives you like significantly more damage, and gives you like a different element that can be a kind of electric chained everywhere, so it would kind of help with a single target DPS kind of faculty that we're not kind of addressing right now. All right, again, dealing with like support characters in any way is kind of a weird sell in general, because it's a support character. The only thing is that BAAL has two things that you guys need to be aware of. Is one, her support DPS thing attacks so quickly, so she could predominantly dominate elemental reactions, which is not necessarily good. We'll see. Anyways, the other thing is that her ult has to do with a stacking mechanic. So as much as she is a burst DPS, not quite the same way as if you're rocking a Hu Tao and a Tartaglia, or a Hu Tao and a Yoimiya. Not quite the same, because I don't know, because I think it's not like you can just, I mean, you might be, if you have enough critical damage and like great stats, you could switch to BAAL and then just full send it. Maybe you'd get out of it, but just with this stacking thing right now, I just wonder how much stacking you need, or if it's like it's great, and if you have more stacks, it becomes godly. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe with the fear of Zhongli being underpowered at release, or if that's what people say at least, they've recalibrated her pretty high up. We'll see. But yes, that is basically the things you need to keep in mind. Address the algorithm or the problem, if you so desire, in your own head. I do think Yoimiya, though, does seem interesting, at the very least, of how this could play out. Because I do think, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm not sure. We'll see. Now let's talk about what her best artifact set will be. I definitely think her best artifact set is going to be the one Xingqiu rocking, is the new the Severed Fate. The Severed Fate artifact set, the one that has to do with energy recharge. miHoYo did make a point in the 2.1 trailer to talk about that she does scale with her burst ultimate. Her burst, like BAAL's ultimate, scales with burst damage amplification, which you guys are like, what the heck are you talking about, Grim? Characters like Razor and whatnot do not benefit from burst damage amplification for whatever reason, just doesn't count. So I think people were wondering about that, so that's miHoYo being like, no, this set will, I think, most likely work for her. So yes, so then that begs the question, how does BAAL scale, or what does she scale off of? Well, I think, I think this is just a general thing, but in terms of stat priority within BAAL, I think you're going to want energy recharge, because if you're rocking this set, energy recharge just means more damage for your ult, which is going to be amazing. But also, you're going to want critical damage and critical rate and attack percent and energy recharge. Those are going to be, I think, the three massive big things, especially if you have this artifact set. Energy recharge will just be good, but if you're worried about like, do I need to get energy recharge on every single one of my cups so that I have 300% energy recharge, Grin? I don't think it's that necessary. I think if you get like some critical rate or some critical damage, it's not like, that's the thing with this artifact set, is like you don't just need energy recharge. It kind of just makes it nice because you can choose to have some energy recharge, also crit damage if you happen to roll it. It basically gives more options for stats. Energy recharge, which is a nice stat, becomes a fucking really good stat because it scales up your damage. Now, with that being said, I think if you have a cup that is like, you have two cups, one that has critical damage and one that has energy recharge, you might want to go with energy recharge. The reason why is because maybe possibly BAAL has an ungodly big ult cost. Yeah. But yeah. As of her other thing, I think everything more or less stays the same. Energy recharge on your timepiece, electro damage on your one piece, and then a critical rate or critical damage on this piece. I don't think anything else changes. I do think on your substats, if you try to get enough crit rate to get around and enough energy recharge to give you a little more bite and get to your ult, then that's going to be great. Although I think it's going to be all leading you to the same thing. Like, I think if you don't have as much critical damage, you probably hopefully have enough energy recharge to where you can just keep her ult always on cooldown and stuff like that. So I don't think it's going to be too much. Again, I think BAAL is going to be a pretty easy character to build. And now let's talk about her desired weapon. Now, if we're rocking this set, there's a higher priority on energy recharge because it immediately transitions into us getting greater damage. So, of course, having any weapon that has energy recharge is going to be quite good. But BAAL does not use a katana. She does when she uses her ult, but not generally speaking. So she scales off of pole arms, which is going to be interesting because they don't have the most attack and all that stuff. But yes, apparently one of her best weapons is going to be this. Of course, it is not going to be as good as her iconic weapon that I'm sure is going to be absolutely broken and nuts. But regardless, her iconic weapon maybe possibly also scales with energy recharge, further incentivizing using the energy recharge set. So yeah, but this will give you even more crit rates, and also will give your attacks some special little wind blades, which is fun. Also, it's a 5-star weapon, so its base attack scaling scales harder or higher. But if you happen to have bought this from the store with your Stardust, this also works. Also, if you have one of these, this works amazingly well as well. Except this one kind of helps weirdly get you more energy recharge, but not. It gives you more like ult charge, but not energy recharge. But if you're gonna use BAAL as like a main DPS burst character, so you could use this, I guess. But I think they're better options. Probably don't use this. Probably don't use this. This one also works again. Just giving you crit rate, although I do think her best stat is going to be energy recharge, just because of how much her ult is going to ask of you in terms of the cost. You're going to want a lot of energy recharge in the bag. And yeah, as far as other things, I mean, this Hydro and Pyro, I don't think this is going to be good. So I think, generally speaking, if you do have a legendary polearm, it tends to be good. Will Hu Tao's be good? Probably not, although kind of, because Hu Tao is good with everything. I don't know. Honestly, I guess it could work as well, because the lower your health with Hu Tao's weapon, the more damage you're going to deal, and you're only going to be really playing like BAAL for like maybe 7 seconds at the most, so you don't, unless you're going to get your ass handed to you in that time. I just don't think it's possible. So especially with you teleporting around, so I think that could also be a good option. But I think her iconic weapon with energy recharge is going to be good, and also the Skyward Spine is also going to be pretty good. But those are what I think are going to be her best in slot kind of things. Also, I forgot, thank you so much, Bento, for talking about that. Yeah, so this is the other thing why I think BAAL is kind of made to be a character where people wish on. Like, they're making a character that's hopefully going to be something that people wish on, because people are going to be saying the week that BAAL's out that she's a very free-to-play friendly character. The reason why people are probably going to say that is because there is a weapon that's very similar to this weapon right here, the Festering Desire, which this one increases your elemental skill damage and elemental skill crit rate, except it's different. Instead of elemental skill damage, I believe it's elemental burst damage. So it increases your elemental burst damage, and I think also gives your elemental skill the higher, or elemental burst, the ability to crit more, I think. So it's just basically great. It's like literally tailor-made, it seems like, for BAAL. And I think it also scales with energy recharge. So it's seemingly made specifically for BAAL, which is why the week that BAAL comes out, this is going to be perfect, it seems, for her. If this weapon called, I'm not going to say what it's called, but this weapon is probably going to be perfect for BAAL. Unlike what I thought was going to be Yuumi's best weapon, which is this, but that last word where it says doubles the effect with 100% energy recharge. But then there's her best artifact set, it takes away your energy, so it counters that a little bit. This doesn't seem to be a thing with BAAL at all. Further is cementing Yuumi as a question mark character. Anyways, but ladies and gentlemen, that is basically all that I have for you. In terms of BAAL, at the very least. Yes, in terms of her best artifact set, I think it's the energy recharge artifact set. With everything that we've been seeing in terms of like her best weapon and stuff, it seems like the game is trying to tell you, use that artifact set for the love of God. It is her best in slot. So yeah, as far as also having a new weapon that seems like it's tailor-made for her as well is amazing. Again, my biggest questions walking away from BAAL, which maybe some of you guys can answer in the comments down below, or what your best team composition would be. That would be awesome to hear as well. But for me, when it comes to BAAL, I'm mainly worried about her ult. I think her E, even if it doesn't do great damage, it still is just a fun, easy application for Electro, although I think it will be pretty good just because it has such little detonation cost or time in between. But the other thing with BAAL that I'm worried about is her ult. Like I said, when they ever introduce things like stacking, and it's a burst character, the hope is that you can basically jump into your, like, after you're done using a Hu Tao, Child, Yoimiya, you can switch to this other character and play them and profit and benefit, and then come back to Yoimiya, and then just keep this back and forth cycling happening. And then every now and again, queue up your support character's abilities so that you can pop off. But with BAAL, I don't know if you're gonna, like, because her cost is so heavy, I don't know if you're going to be able to easily switch to her and get to her ult. I don't know if you're going to need to, like, make sure the stars are more aligned in order for her ult to bite, because there is this underlying stacking mechanic. It weirds me out and it worries me a little bit. I'm hoping, but I'm not sure. But alas, we'll see when the character fully comes out. I'm not sure, but we'll see. I like to think that I think they wouldn't try to mess up another 5-star, specifically an Archon, or not an Archon, a God character. But yes, so we'll see. I don't know. I'm hoping for the best. Also, Bento says, I've heard attack percent could be the best goblet. Maybe. Yeah, that's the thing. I think people, there's always this argument, or like this kind of ratio where, do you try to build for energy recharge? Do you try to build for crit rate? I think the new artifact set only really gives you more options. I think the difference between having critical damage, or critical rate maybe, and having like a shit ton of energy recharge is kind of like a so-so. Like, I think when it's all said and done, you'll probably arrive closer to the same thing. I don't think it's going to be like supercharging leagues difference. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. This has been a video we've made with our community. If I look a little fucking gone, it's because we've been streaming for quite a long time and I'm pretty fucking gone. But I really wanted to make this video for you guys. Again, the one thing to note is that it will probably take a lot of us to get BAAL up to level 90, ascending her talents, because she's maybe possibly her ascension for her talents is tied to a maybe possibly brand new boss. So yeah, everything will take a little bit more time to get back into it. So yeah, but again, I still think you'll be able to see what she's all about and see if you like her, especially with the test run. But again, I think she's a support DPS. Those tend to not age out of the meta, because you always could use a little bit more damage to increase your clear time and all that stuff. Also, she's a utility element, so if you have characters that are main cryo DPSs that also happen to be physical damage characters like Eula's, they can massively benefit. So if you have those characters, she becomes more valuable. Also, if you have a fast attacking character like Hu Tao, or like Yanfei or Yoimiya, those seem like great options as well. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for your time, and goodbye. Also, wait, I didn't mention that. Thank you so much if you liked it or shared the video around. God damn it, me. Fuck, I gotta get better at this. I always forget to say that, which makes a huge difference, by the way. Anywho, also, my lovely community is saying goodbye. What a bunch of wonderful people. Thank you for putting up with me, and goodbye.